that allow colleges to increase their costs maybe more than they might?
You know, I've gotten this question in the past, well, not in the past, it's just been a couple of days of this week. And so one of the things, and I think Bharat talked about this a little bit because there's been questions about, is this going to raise the tuition by doing this from colleges? Look, this is something that the Secretary of Education, Secretary Cardona, he has said this in interviews that he'll be monitoring, keeping a close eye on. He will continue to take the steps to hold colleges accountable for raising costs without delivering additional value. So that's a big piece of what you were asking me. But already the administration has taken actions to accountable measures. We reinstated an enforcement office at the Department of Education. We terminated a college creditor that had previously allowed colleges that defrauded borrowers to get access to federal student loans. That's something that Bharat just talked about specifically moments ago. And we're rolling out new resources to help students make more informed decisions on which school will better deliver value for the cost. Look, you know, once again, I just want to say this, you know, you have one thing that people are told, young people in particular are told, is that in order to have a you know, a good job or have a career, you got to go to college and get that education or continue that education. And there's some communities that need a little bit of help, and we should be providing that little bit of help. That's why we did a targeted, the president did a targeted, fiscally responsible approach in making sure that we give Americans a little bit more breathing room, middle-class Americans a little bit more breathing room. And when you do that, you know, they are going to have extra money to buy that house. They're going to have a little extra money to start that family. And so that is important as well, and that is something that the president is certainly committed to. Go ahead.
That's great.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'll come around. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sebastian. I was pointing to Sebastian, and then I'll come around.
I knew there was people right behind me.
It's so funny.
I
actually think when I'm pointing to someone specific, but from the other.
I got it. I'm in there now. So two questions for
Sure.
now. On the semi-fascism comment.
Yeah.
Is this something we're going to hear more of? That phrase. Is it something the president's going to kind of embrace, or is there any sense that it was, you know, a little impromptu, and it's going to turn into a kind of basket of deplorables thing that he regrets and tries to be quiet about?
Look, I was very clear when laying out and defining what you know, MAGA Republicans have done, and you look at the definition of fascism and you think about what they're doing in attacking our democracy, what they're doing in taking away our freedoms, wanting to take away our rights, our voting rights. I mean, that is what that is. It is very clear, and that's why he made that that powerful speech that you heard from him last night. And he has not shied away from saying that. You have heard him maybe not use that specific word, but you have heard him certainly use that definition. And look, what we are putting before the American people is a choice, right? And it is clear, there's a clear contrast as what is happening on that side of the aisle and what's happening on our side with congressional Democrats and what we have been delivering for the American people. And we're going to continue to fight for freedom. We're going to continue to fight for people's rights, and that is not that is something that he takes very seriously, and that's what you heard from him last night.
Okay, and just quickly on the other side of the world, how confident is the administration that European allies are going to be able to weather the energy crisis that seems to be going into, and winter is obviously going to get worse. Finnish people are apparently not taking saunas already, but it's getting worse than that. Not to make light of it. And politically, is a concern that this whole alliance over Ukraine is gonna really start cracking when that bites.
So, you know, just a couple of things, and I have a few things that I want to say because this is an important question. So, President Putin is weaponizing energy, right? You've heard us say that before, and that is exactly what is happening. This is why President Biden set up a task force with the EU back in March to work on ways to increase alternative sources of natural gas to Europe, including from the United States. We've made progress Since March, global LNG exports to Europe has risen by 84% compared to 2021, while the U.S. share of those LNG exports have been nearly tripled. And so that's important to note. In fact, global LNG exports to Europe since March have increased by 20 billion cubic meters compared to last year, already exceeding the pledge President Biden made back in March to work with partners to ensure additional volumes for the EU market of at least 15 billion cubic meters this year. We know we have more work to do, and we'll keep looking for ways to increase gas stockpiles in Europe, coupled with efforts to reduce Europe's demand for natural gas through energy efficiency and clean energy deployment. The path to energy security requires a doubling down on our efforts to transition to a clean energy economy, and we continue to work with Europe on this shared goal. Look, what you have seen this past several months, more than 6 months, even before we saw the war in Ukraine, the unprovoked war by Russia, is a unified West. You see the NATO alliance the strongest than it's ever been. It is going to, looks like it's going to extend by 2, and that would not have happened if they weren't united, if we didn't see the leadership of this president. And so we believe that alliance, that partnership is going to continue. We are going to make sure that our partners in Ukraine has what they need to continue to fight for their freedom and fight for their sovereignty. Oh, we have to go? Okay, I'll take, go ahead, Brett. I was supposed to call on Brett. Go ahead.
I know today marks the anniversary of the terrorist attack in Kabul in Afghanistan. I saw the president's statement this morning, but I was curious, has he reached out to any of the families of the victims of that attack, or does he have any plans to address the anniversary of the withdrawal at length to the American people?
So the president put out a statement earlier today, and as you all probably saw, some of you probably saw the statement that was released. He named each of the 13 troops who were tragically killed on that day. The president feels deeply about the loss that was suffered 1 year ago. And as he said in that statement, he feels strongly that we owe their families support for the rest of their lives. That is something that he's committed to. We are never going to stop seeking justice for those who were involved in planning of that attack, or for terrorists who threaten our homeland on any other day. So no president feels more strongly about our troops and their families than this president. And he and the First Lady have taken action to support our service members and their families through joining forces and signing the historic burn pits legislation that, as you all know, expands benefits for veterans, and it was incredibly historical. Again, I point you to the statement. I don't have anything more to share. I will take one last question. Somebody I haven't called on. Rob, I know I haven't. I know you've been raising. Rob, go ahead.
Okay, so on Afghanistan, just to follow up, what would you say to the father of a US Marine killed in the suicide attack last year, who thinks that taping a segment with Jay Leno this afternoon is insensitive and tone deaf?
Again, this is something that's very personal to the president. It was a tragic killing on that day. 13 members were lost, as well as 170, more than 170 lives of Afghan lives. So this is incredibly important day that he wants to make sure that he acknowledged, which is why he put out the statement. But he and the First Lady have not lost focus on those families or any of the families that have lost loved ones in this 20-year war, because remember, we were there for 2 decades and we lost a lot of lives. Through joining forces, as I just mentioned, in the burn pits legislation that the president just signed, that is important as well. That is the work that this president is committed to doing, and that is a big deal, an important thing for service members and their families. And again, no president feels more strongly about our troops and their families than this president. who himself, the father of a service member who served in Iraq. So this is.
To film something with a comedian? I mean, are you worried about the optics of that at all?
What I will tell you is that this is a day, a tragic day that the president takes very personal. Not just the president, also the first lady. And I will let his words, the statement, stand for itself. He knows this, again, as a father himself of a service member that served in Iraq. So we do not take this lightly. We take this very seriously. You know, our hearts are with the families today. Okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to go.
Do you have any comment on the election in Angola and Kenya?
Okay, I'll take that one really quickly, and then we're going to go. Because this is important. The United States congratulates the people of Angola for making their voices heard in Wednesday's elections. We continue to observe the electoral process as votes are counted. We encourage peace and patience as the vote tally process continues. The United States supports the democratic process through our ongoing democracy and governance programs and by observing the election. Election observations promote participation and public confidence in the electoral process. The United States and Angola share a strong partnership. We will continue to work together with the government chosen by the Angolan people to deepen cooperation around shared priorities, including democracy, economic growth and investment, global health security and public health, and climate and energy goals to create a better future for all Angolans. The United States commends the people of Angola for their participation in the democratic process and efforts to strengthen democratic institutions, which will provide a foundation for a safe, prosperous, healthy, and inclusive future for both of our countries. Thank you, everybody.